Hi, this is my reply to Brenna for the Hunt for the Wilderpeople film review. First off, I want to say thank you for your posting, and that I actually liked your film review. I actually have been reading a few film reviews in the last few days for different movies, mostly because they are pretty interesting, and each person has their own point of view on it. Some of them can give you a full detailed synopsis. Others can basically spoil the entire movie for you without even lifting a finger. Some of them are very detailed. Some of them are very vague. It honestly comes down to the person. Personally, I liked your review because it gave you a full overview of the film, but didn't exactly make it so you were actually spoiled overly too much, but you still get the basic building blocks of the story, which is actually pretty nice overall. I know for this film particularly, I had a difficult time watching it, mostly because I kept getting distracted, or I had having to replay parts of it, because I just wasn't that resonated with the film. I didn't really resonate with it, and I sort of had to watch it a few times to get a full understanding of the film and figure out what was going on. But I do say that the film is really good on building friendships and relationships, especially when you don't know people very well, or you're moving around a lot and you basically have to start over. And especially when it comes down to a young teenager, that could cause some friction, because with Ricky Baker, he basically was put into a new home in the middle of nowhere. He knew no one, and he basically was left alone in the countryside. And I know from personal experience what that's like, to basically be uprooted one day, saying you're gonna spend an unknown amount of time in a random place, and you're basically stuck there, and you don't know what you're going to do. And in Ricky's case, he tried to run away, he couldn't, and eventually he found a friend in Bella, and then Bella passed away, which honestly I knew from the beginning, because there's a lot of dialogue talking about death, and I'm like, you know what, she's probably going to pass away, or she's going to die, or something's going to make a ripple effect. Before I even finished the video or looked up any reviews for it, or any synopses, or things like that, I had a feeling she was going to die. Something was going to happen to cause friction. I just did not know what. Then there was the part where he got lost in the woods, and of course ran off, and I liked how they were shocked that they were being a national-wide manhunt, because they literally did not know. And of course, when you're out there, you don't have cell phone coverage or anything like that. And of course, internet, and the phones they were using were quite old. So I would have to first assume, no iPhones, no Android, no just regular old phones, that it would be difficult to establish a link of communication. Because even when you get your phone on there, you have to have a tower. So of course you're not going to figure out what's going on unless you see it on a bulletin board or whatever. And of course, being out in the wilderness of New Zealand, or even in the wilderness in the camping, or even in the country, it's going to be hard to find cell phone service or anything like that. And there was, of course, I will agree, some bits of comedy in the story that basically livened it up. And it was pretty interesting. A little difficult to get through, as I said, but that could just be personal preference, honestly. Though I will admit there was a lot of pretty cool pop culture references. The most notable, which you did mention, was about the Terminator scene, which was pretty cool. considering, Sarah Connor, Terminator, and all that stuff like that, which sort of is pretty nice to have it mixed in every once in a while. And I will admit that the CGI was probably I didn't actually think it was that bad, but to some it could have been. It was a little blander than the rest of the movie, but that honestly happens. Well, that, and sometimes you can't get good practical effects with CGI. You have to actually have real effects there, and CGI can only do so much, and so can actual people with the effects can do so much. It's sort of as you either get one really good or you get one really bad, at least in my point of view. The thing with the Two Wild Boars is actually really interesting. I actually have to say 100% that when the dog died, that was the number one point in the movie where I literally cried because the dog died. That was the only major moving part of the movie that just sort of that struck at my feels, and I actually really liked it. That was the only part that I actually 100% stood out to me, besides the Ricky Baker song at the beginning, which was about a birthday song, I believe, was when the dog died. That was when it basically, I actually liked this scene. And I will have to agree that the soundtrack was great with the movie. It flowed seamlessly, and you didn't really pay any attention to either one, because they just both blended together perfectly. I will say that the PG-13 rating is pretty good, because the film does contain violence, guns, knives, a lot of other stuff. Well, dangerous animals, of course, though there also was animal death and topics of death, which, for some, could lead into getting a stronger PG-13 rating, especially as it does deal with animal death, and most people are trying to shy away from it, at least on the millennial side of things, because they're more touch and go. They like to know what's in movies before actually going and seeing them, and they like to make sure they're not affected by anything too majorly. But overall, I'll have to say that this was actually a great review, because if I would have read this review before watching a movie, I would have had a better touch of what to look for, especially because there's a lot of references in the movie, and it's a pretty interesting one. I wouldn't necessarily a very entertaining one for myself personally, but it was pretty interesting overall, especially with the way the story turned out and how the big epic chase scene near the end, where Ricky basically ends up accidentally shooting Heck in the back, which is sort of the accident little, when the villain tells the hero, "You're just like me, blah blah blah," and then the hero basically does something that the villain doesn't expect, and that's basically one of it. I think that's in my mind, because as much as you wanted to root for them when Heck said that he didn't matter, I believe that he didn't care. I mean, it was more like a shadow effect, in one of the new World of Warcraft cinematics. If you haven't watched it, I'm getting a little off topic here, is where Sylvanas, basically leader of the Horde, said that the Horde are nothing. So that, in Ricky Baker's thing, is like when he heard Heck say that he was nothing, that he wasn't his uncle, something could have triggered him, and it just went off. It could have been an accident, could have been a split-second decision. At least I would have to go back to watch the film more critically for the last few scenes. But honestly, that was a big decision in itself. That was sort of like a tipping point of everything that's exploding. But yeah, I actually really loved your review, and I got a little bit off topic, but yeah, thank you very much for your post, and this is my reply.